Oh,
We are now live. Hi, everyone. Hi, Ian. How are you?
hey. Yeah, I don't know how today's gonna go. Today's a little
Okay.
different for me. I think I'm gonna rely heavily on you, even though it's my topic.
Great. No
And
pressure. Awesome.
I'm gonna try to keep it together. Um, I don't know if I'll be successful in that, but whatever, it's fine. Um, so the topic that I basically insisted was happening this week is dealing with loss.
Hmm.
And if people on this side of the world who know me know how much I'm into CrossFit, and this weekend happened to be the CrossFit Games. So this is our Olympics but it's every year, and it's been my sport now for what seems like, I don't know, at least the last half dozen years. So yeah, I really look forward to it. It's like kind of like my Christmas. I get to sit down and watch, and like I kind of revel in it. I'll even do a bunch of stat things, and yeah, I just really get into it. And in the very first event, one of the athletes drowned.
Oh,
Yeah, he was 25 to 50 meters away from the finish line, and he went under, and nobody noticed.
how can you not notice?
Too many bodies.
Okay.
I don't, we do, there's nothing's been released yet other than he went down, and um it was just a really emotional weekend. And it's weird because I have zero physical connection to this individual, but
Hmm.
because I'm so emotionally invested in the season, it's the sport that I pay attention to. It's what I do dishes to as I'm, preparing to get ready for bed and stuff. And you kind of get emotionally invested and attached to the characters that are in the space. And because like my weirdly my life kind of revolves around this sport, and it's like what do I do, like this isn't if this doesn't go on, and like is there, I don't know, I mean, I wasn't thinking about this too much, but it was, are they going to continue? Do they not? Do
Oh,
they,
as in the whole
like
weekend or
that
the
weekend? I mean, there would have been thousands of people that would have traveled there, hundreds of athletes. A lot of these people, this is their livelihood. He was competing with his brother, so his brother was there at the same time. So it was a really weird day because I focused a lot on like watching the video and seeing how like he kind of you can see him in distress, and then they pan away and they come back and there's nobody there. Um, anyways, so a lot of the weekend, anyways, they decided to go on with the games. They did a memorial service ceremony sort of the next day, but just watching how heart-wrenching it was for the announcers, for the athletes, for the family members. And I got totally wrapped up in that myself. Um, I don't know if it's because I'm a parent, and like watching someone struggle and then all of a sudden they're gone. There's just so many kind of thoughts that end up going through your mind, um, because of a loss. Like what if that was my kid, or what if, um, like my son's asking, "Can I go to the park?" And I'm like, No." But like it's just amazing how much something like that can impact you, or you let impact you. But it wasn't the only loss that weekend.
Oh,
My
okay.
mom sent me a text and said that she lost her closest living friend, that she saw her a couple of days ago. She was great, and then she went into hospital with a perforated colon, and she died.
Right.
So I ended up having a conversation with her, and we ended up laughing and crying together about what I was going through and what she was going through, and um, uh, basically determined that she was feeling basically self-pity that her friend had lost. It's weird, right? Because they're gone. They don't
That
feel anything, at least not the way that we know how they feel anything now. So we're feeling sad because we don't have what
We
he
don't
what
have
he wants.
something. Yes, so it's us going, oh, poor us, we don't have them anymore. What am I going to do? And I'm not being to minimize the pain, but
No.
it is a bit of that, isn't it? It's like, oh, well, I'm so used to having that person there or having that event to watch, or I like watching that athlete perform, and what? Now they got there. Yes, and it makes you question.
So my emotions were kind of just underneath the surface the entire time. So anytime I would talk about it with Julie, or try to explain things to the kids who don't understand. But my son, uh, he's a mini me in a lot of respects, and like if he sees I'm upset, he's upset.
Yeah.
Like he'll immediately take it on his own, either because he doesn't understand, or he's just has that empathetic um, thing in him. And I was trying to explain to my wife what had happened with my mom's friend, and just trying to read the text. And the word devastated just struck me. And then I was crying. And then Avery just sees me crying and starts crying. So I can't even explain where I'm at. And they're all like, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" I'm like, "I can't talk." and then
letting
uh and
letting
then
the
my
emotion out. Yep.
and then my mom's the mom the lady that she lost in her life, her husband died 2 days later.
Oh, oh my goodness.
So this whole week has been kind of shrouded in that loss. And um I don't believe in the, 1, 2, 3 bad luck stuff or whatever, but it just happened to be that that's what showed up. And that's where all my attention and focus has been this week, is dealing with that, dealing with the loss, trying to figure out, how do I want to be, how do I want to show up? Do I need to start doing something different in my life? Like that whole fragility of life thing.
Yeah, it really hits you in the face, doesn't it? And makes you go, well, what choices am I making?
Yeah. And why am I so afraid to do certain things? And like the
Because
shit that I worry
tomorrow, are
about
you going to be here?
yeah,
So
the stuff
why
that I
not
worry
just
about
do
on a
it?
regular basis, does it really matter?
Yeah, that change in perspective. Yeah, okay, wow.
Sorry, so they're
Oh,
all out there now. All of the and oh, sorry. And I also found out that my nana, who's 106 years old, she turned 106 in July. She's starting to she's, I think, on her it's crazy to say she's on her way out now, but she's starting to feel cold. She's forgetting to eat. Like she's in that stage of life.
yeah, which is
So
usually not far away from crossing. Yep,
exactly.
yep, I get it.
So it's just been either dealing with loss, or seeing other people with loss, or people preparing for loss. It just seems to be the theme, at least, that's been running through my week. And I knew I needed to talk about it, not necessarily knowing where it would go.
Okay, yes, and I have no idea where this is going to go, other than I can hear some topics that I can that kind of jumped out at me as you were telling all of those stories. And the first one that really jumped is that it's the unexpected that really hits us first, isn't it? it? One of the things that happens is that you go into shock when there's something unexpected happens. I'm going
Mm.
to use a completely different example, like when you're a kid and you're walking along and everything's crazy, and then you trip and you're more devastated because you fell, not because you hurt yourself. It's because it was unexpected. Okay, that was just me. But we get a shock when we experience something that's unexpected and not what we imagine that outcome to be.
Mm.
And and that's the first thing that jumped out at me when you were talking about this, particularly with the couldn't quite say the words emotional. It's kind of like it reminded me of the kid that's fallen over and is just crying, but you're going, well, there's no blood. It's not like there's, you're okay, but there's no words for or explanation for how much emotion it's there. It's the shock that's
Mm.
processing. So that was the first thing I heard. So do you feel like you are through the shock of these things, or is that still something that's moving?
No, I think I'm through the shock of that. That was definitely the first couple of days for sure. But it's weird because the whole kind of CrossFit community was going through something similar. So it's like a pinging off of everybody's emotions. So he cries, then I cry, then that guy cries, and this guy cries. Okay, so there's one heat of events here of crying athletes, and how are they gonna deal with their interview afterwards? And he's my friend, and they start like doing that thing where they just can't keep it together, and then they could go through it all again with the next wave of athletes. So it was like a consistent repetition of similar events, just staying in that kind of messy grieving place, but everyone grieving in a different way. Like it was just
And yeah, there's a couple of aspects there, isn't there? It's really important to do that grieving process, particularly for that example when because loss can come in so many ways, as we know.
mhm,
Uh, but when it's a person that we have emotional attachment to, or a situation you have emotional attachment to, we have to, humans, I've noticed, work much better when they can release those emotions and actually be vulnerable in them. So that's important. And yet, like you said, you get the pinging effect, which is
mhm.
when that emotion's happening and this one's happening and that one, then suddenly there's even more emotion. And that can start to be overwhelming because there's so much of it going on. And then where is your piece? Like, where is your way of processing those emotions in amongst it all? Which,
And I think it made it hard to process because in a weird way, it was hard to process because I was putting myself on repeat watching stuff, right? Versus trying to figure out what I wanted to do with it.
yeah, and that's that getting overwhelmed by all the other emotion that is coming at you and obviously on repeat, which you kind of understand in that big event, but it can be really challenging individually. You're almost better off turning it all off, getting through the process, and then watching it later.
Maybe.
Maybe not.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It was a completely different viewing experience. There was something kind of touching about it though, seeing how people came together and supported one another, and the event itself didn't seem to be as important, you know?
It was the community, the coming
Right.
together of
Yeah. I
individuals.
mean, people
Yeah.
got to forget while they did a little workout or whatever, and then they came back and then they're done, then they can wallow again. So yeah, it wasn't the same thing.
Yeah. It and it's interesting, isn't it, that then goes to a broader thing around, well, why do we have community? Why do we create these CrossFit communities or any other level of community? It's because when we have those moments, it's how we come together. It's the connection, it's the level of connection that humans are always looking for.
Mm.
So that's a really lovely representation of that with the sad emotions at the same time. Isn't it interesting that we're uncomfortable with the sad thing? Like if you shared the story around this amazing, well, we could use the Olympics as an example. It's been everywhere here, and we've still got the Paralympics starting next week, So it's like the highs and the winning. And yet for an athlete to win, they have to do a lot of loss.
Yeah.
They have to lose a lot to win, to get that level of, oh, now I can win, now it's my turn. And we celebrate that, and the community comes together, and we've seen that over the Olympics. It's like everyone comes together and they're cheering this person, and it doesn't matter who they are. Oh, they're just part of the Canadian team or the Australian team, and we just get behind them. And it's so much easier to process. We don't get overwhelmed with that.
Mm.
We just stay in the heightened thing. And that is just as an equivalent emotion as it is in the sadness. But we as humans generally find it a little more difficult to move through that sadness. I wonder
Yeah,
why
but
that is.
I think that's the kind of overwhelming um state of how people have perceived what's okay and what's not okay. Like, stop crying, stop crying. That whole
Get
Like,
up. You just fell down. Get up. You're not bleeding.
buck up, rub some dirt on it, get back out there or something, right? Um,
Yep.
tape an aspirin to it. So
I love that tape and aspirin.
that doesn't work, tape two. So, uh, but yeah, that kind of, I don't know, was it that testosterone, like guys don't cry, like whatever that stupid paradigm is. Even actually, I've caught myself before, and if somebody ever tells like my kids like don't cry, I'm like, cry, like it's normal, like cry, it's fine. So I mean, my kids see me cry more often than like I'd like to admit, to be honest. Like I watched Inside Out 2 and I cried during that, and I'm like, come on, like it's not even that sad. Anyways, so uh
I love it. My husband cries at the drop of a hat. He cries more than I do, and I'm known for bawling.
like I can
Like
watch a dance
I
show and I can cry because of a performance, and then
oh
I know the judge is gonna cry now, but it's I honestly don't have a huge problem with it, other than I don't necessarily want to do it in public, but it happens. It happens.
it happens, and we again this comes back to this expectations, right? Which is also what we get a shock with. That unexpectedly happened. Oh no, I don't know what to do. It's almost like we put ourselves in shock, and then we have to shut that down so that we don't show that. Yeah, emotion. Whenever anybody does anything with any level of vulnerability, we all go, oh, that's so, I'm so there, I'm so with them, I'm everything. So that vulnerability and showing that is actually creates more human connection than anything else.
And
Um,
I think at the event itself, I think the more people, I think people got a lot more comfortable being in that space. I mean, you had athletes crying and hugging all like the whole time.
yeah, I and look, I when you were telling the story, I was thinking, and you mentioned getting attached to the characters and stuff. I do that in TV shows, and I know they're not real. And if that TV show kills off the main character, I will never watch that show again.
Wait, no need to.
Like, you killed my favorite person. Off you go. I'm not watching this anymore. Because it feels so overwhelming for me just, and it's a TV show. And I think this is the other thing. We all have different ex like examples of where we get so overwhelmed that we want to try and maintain it and avoid. I want to avoid it sometimes. That's why I go, okay, if we've killed that main character, you're probably going to kill the next 5 people that I really, really like in this TV show. So done. Because I don't want to expose myself to that because it feels uncomfortable. It
Yeah.
it and I wonder whether somewhere along the way we've forgotten to learn how to deal with emotion that are uncomfortable.
I completely agree with you, because how often was emotion discussed in your family?
It wasn't.
And if it was it a good thing?
Oh no. Stop crying is a classic. Get on with it. The whole kids should be seen and not heard. We were so raised in that generation. My father was about 10 years older than my mother, so we also had another level of that generation that was really strong. I remember my mother expressing emotions through anger, but not through sadness.
Mm.
Yet the anger was probably through sadness, right? Um, it was just no other way to express it because the way she'd been raised was don't express emotion. So, what the role modeling is, don't show emotion. What I like now, though, in my current existence, is that I see my daughter showing emotion, like you said with your kids, encouraging them to to cry, to have that outlet. Um, it's a really different experience to what I learnt. So I've had to relearn, and I haven't done all the relearning yet because, like I said, kill off that main character in a TV show, you're done. That's it. Not going there. Yeah. So I still struggle with emotion. So when you said the dealing with loss, it's like the first thing that occurred to me is that I will do everything I can to not have to deal with loss.
Mm.
So if I see it coming, if I get a hint about something coming, I'll go into super practical mode. I will shut down those emotions. When you share the story about your nana who's 106, I mean, wow, how amazing. My great aunt managed to, she passed away just after she turned 97. So that's sort of similar vintage of life experience.
Yeah.
But we went into super practical mode. Okay, so what is it that she needs to be comfortable? What can we do for this? It was sort of about her, not about us. And I will do everything to avoid those emotions.
Mm.
And I think a lot of us do that. I don't know that it's healthy though.
No, I don't think so either. I think it's just different sides of the same coin. So trying to not knowing how to deal with it, so you're dealing with it the best way you know how, and in that case it went that direction. What I saw a lot this last week have been it's a lot of blame, right? A
Ah,
lot of anger. How could this happen? Whose fault is it? Accountability. Someone should lose their job. Someone should be sued. Whatever. Like there's a lot of that. So I've
well,
been
that's a classic in grief, isn't it? Anger will be the first thing.
yeah. So well, yeah. What are the 7 stages of grief or whatever it is? I don't know. There's
Yeah, I don't know the orders of them, but anger is definitely number one.
definitely in there, but I think that's um just a lack of understanding of what you're going through when you're that mad, right? I don't think I ever got mad at this situation, probably because it's not like I am definitely a layer removed from that. Um, I come
But
from a
obviously still hits all the emotional buttons because your involvement in the
for
community.
sure. I think what I would want to know is just more information. Like I need to make a not that my point of view really matters in this situation, but having all the information at your disposal will help you make a more informed, aware decision on what to do, what to say, where to go, whatever. So like let's say this person had a pre-existing heart condition and had a heart attack and died. Yes, sad for sure. Is there anything they could have done? Maybe not. And if that was relevant or known information, well, then you have less of a beef from the anger perspective of things. Sure, there's things they could do to be safer for sure. However, that wipes out 50% of the angry complaints that are already out there.
And all the blame game. Yeah.
Right. And the blame doesn't serve anybody, anyways. It's just a way of deflecting attention from you and putting your energy and attention somewhere else, as opposed to dealing with what you are struggling with internally yourself.
Yeah, totally. And it comes back to what you shared about your mom. It's that when we do have that within the story that you told about your mom, it's our own loss, like it's our own thing. It's our own issue that we've got, that person's left us now and we're not don't have them anymore. My closest experience of that is with my father-in-law, but I'd already started distancing myself from him because he was diagnosed with a incurable disease. So we had kind of time to distance ourselves.
Mhm.
But the one that I've really felt it with is when friends have disappeared and I don't have them anymore. And they were the ones that I would rely on. Or my siblings. I've had a lot of that loss in those. Again, it comes back to expectation.
Mhm.
An expectation that my siblings would be there for me, that I would want them to be there for me in certain versions. I just, when the expectations are not met, that's when the devastation happens. So when we're dealing with loss, I think what we're really dealing with is the expectation and the shock of that expectation not being met.
Mm.
And so what do? I go into preparation mode totally so that I don't get unexpected. It's funny how much I set my life up so I don't have unexpected things happen.
Well, I think it makes sense though, right? Because if you don't like the unexpected and the unexpected throws you off, I'm going to do everything in my power to make everything as controlled as possible so I avoid those unexpected things.
And yet, life just is going to throw those things at you.
Unexpected
So
things are going to happen.
I'm going to share a short story about my daughter. She said, I'm not opening my email ever again, Mum. Every time I open my email, there's another email that throws a curveball at me. So the first thing they've had is the vet surgery that she works with, the other vet got bitten by a dog and has had to have 6 weeks off. Now, not that, well, that was unexpected. And it meant that Angel had more work hours that she had to be there for. It's not necessarily a bad thing all up, until she then got an email saying that their lease for where they were renting was going to be finishing up and they had to find somewhere else to live. And so they've managed to do that. So they pick up the key for the new property on Monday and they've started packing and they've got all that moving along. Well, at the beginning of this week, she said, the venue for my engagement party is no longer available. I now have to find another venue. Her engagement party is in like 2 weeks. So watching her deal with the unexpected has been very interesting when she is someone who has learned how to deal with emotion.
Mm.
When she first told me about having to move houses, I went straight into, well, when your head feels really overwhelmed and you can't make sense of what the next thought is, feel free to give me a call. Otherwise, I knew she would practically work it out. And then same with the engagement party. Okay, so what's the options? What options do you have? And she was like, well, we were pretty sad because we really liked that location. It was really pretty and it was this and that. But you know what? We found this other location and it's going to be okay. And it just showed me that when you are when you've had emotional skills, when you have them and you haven't had to actively learn them, when they just come and it's okay, she actually is dealing with all of this in her stride, even though she's had unexpected things thrown her way.
Mm.
I could learn from her, I think. Ironically, I think that's how it works anyway, isn't it? We raise our children so we can learn from them.
Open to it. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. I mean, those stories you've shared are phenomenally sad and devastating. I can't think of a better word to use with that. And interesting that it all happened in such a cluster.
Mm.
I'm glad that you were a little removed from all of those examples, though,
Yes.
so that you can have some perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I don't begrudge the fact that this weekend happened. I think it's um these this is all part of the human experience anyways, right? So we're all learning how to do this stuff, hopefully better than the version of us that came before us, so that we can
Yes.
impart some of that with those who we have some control over. So we all continuously evolve through it, being okay showing the emotion, it's being okay showing that you're struggling, not having to hide behind closed doors, um, trying to explain this stuff to them if they can't maybe necessarily grasp it right now, but knowing that it's available to them, hopefully they'll be in a better spot than even I'm in. So that's my hope.
Yeah, and I see a lot of that filtering through the generation that are coming after us now. There's a few generations now, aren't there? Oh, geez, we're showing our age. But it's great to see the generations are improving on even our generation, to showing those emotions and whether we like them the way that they show them or not, they're still actually much more comfortable with emotional situations than we ever were.
Hmm,
So yeah.
cool.
Well, thank you for sharing those stories, Ian.
You're welcome. Sorry for bringing the mood down. I didn't see any gifts going out this week. I don't know what this is, so I don't know what to put out. So yeah.
Yeah, so it's I, yes, it might have brought the energy down a little, but also it's life, and life is going to keep throwing these things at us. So it's okay for us to have that as a conversation.
I completely agree. It's part of why I wanted to share it. And
Yeah,
it was too relevant in my current reality to not share it. So it had to come. So thank
very
you
cool.
for helping me walk through it too at the same time. It's helpful.